Hey everyone, welcome to the Lighthouse Revolution webinar, which I'll teach you how to build your lighthouse. My name is Karen Gunton, and you can see me here in the Lighthouse headquarters. Let me just flip this around so you can see. There we go. That's not backwards anymore now. So you can see I've got the lighthouse here on the wall behind me as a reminder of the work that I am here to do in the world, and I want to teach you a bit about that today as well. So thank you so much for joining me again. My name is Karen Gunton, and I help women to shine their light in the world, which means that you get to be you and you get to live a life that lights you up and feels ignited, and share who you are with the world, because I believe we are each here for a reason. We have a purpose, and the whole idea of the lighthouse is to be a symbol to really remind us that we have to do the work that we need to do in order to shine our light. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I want to teach you a bit about what we can learn from the lighthouse, and I'll tell you a bit about how this came about for me. And then we're going to go through some different situations and questions that we've received from members of the Lighthouse Revolution community, and we'll use those examples to really look at what we can learn from the lighthouse, to go through this process with some specific examples in mind. So even if that situation doesn't really reflect what's going on for you, that should be still a good idea anyway, some inspiration to help you get going. So thank you to everybody who's joining live, and I apologize for the delay this morning. There is a bit of an unexpected delay on my end, so I've been kind of rushing around, but we're here now, and of course this will also be a recording for anybody who can't hang around for the whole time or who wants to listen later. Thank you as well for joining. And of course, please remember that we've got the Lighthouse Revolution community, which is a free community on Facebook, for anybody who would like a little support and inspiration, maybe some ideas to help you as you go on your journey to build your lighthouse that will help you to shine your light in the world. So do pop over to the Lighthouse community, Lighthouse Revolution community at any time. Say hi. If you didn't get a chance to ask a question and you'd like to, you can pop it in the group, and I'll be there to help you out and yeah, answer any questions that you've got. All right, so let's get started. I just want to tell you first, the Lighthouse Revolution came about as part of my own personal journey. A few years ago, I was in a place where I was really stuck. I'd lost my mojo for the stuff that I was doing at the time. I just had a baby and I was exhausted, and our life had changed quite a lot, and it meant that the things that I'd been doing for work and for business weren't really working anymore, and I basically just felt lost, you know, as the best way to describe it. And at that time, I was on Pinterest, and I came across a quote that said, "Lighthouses don't go running all over an island looking for boats to save. They just stand there shining." And when I saw that quote is by Anne Lamott, by the way. When I saw that, just a little image on Pinterest, I just had this moment where I thought, that's what I want. I don't want to run around like a crazy person, running all over the island. I just want to stand there shining. And that was a few years ago, and I kind of went on a journey to figure out what lights me up, you know, to find my spark, so to speak, and to learn more about me and what I wanted to do in the world, and you know, learn things like my strengths and my values, and think about the kind of life I wanted to build. And that was fantastic, and I certainly went on to make some changes. I kind of had an online business at the time that I changed, and it became much more successful and much more fun. And I made changes in just the way, you know, that I sort of ran things, because I did it all based on my spark, my light. And that was fantastic. Although there did come a time where I realized, you know, that there's more to the story. There had to be more to the story than just kind of showing up and saying, I found the thing that, you know, lights me up. And, you know, I realized that everything that I needed in my life didn't just magically appear. So, you know, that idea where people say, follow your bliss or find your passion. or, you're here to shine your light. All of that is really nice, and it sure sounds great, and it can certainly inspire, but it's not the whole story. It's not the whole story. You can't really just follow your bliss and have everything magically work out. You can't just find your passion and suddenly, the career or the business or the work or the life that is perfect for you doesn't just magically appear. And that's when I came back to the lighthouse quote. I came back to that quote and I thought, that whole thing about finding my light, finding my spark was really cool. And it definitely made a big difference. But I feel like there's more to this story, because it's not enough for people to say, oh, you just need to have some confidence, just go out there, or, get out of your comfort zone, or just do it. And all those kinds of sentiments were driving me crazy, because I thought, how people say that kind of stuff, but how do you just put your thing out there and have it work? How do you just wake up one morning and say, this is what I'm going to do with my life? How do you make changes that are so hard to make because of all the stuff that keeps us feeling stuck? So I went on this next big adventure, or this big journey, to try to figure out the hows. It's nice to say that I'm here to shine my light, but how? It's nice to say, I got to find my passion and I got to live a life that feels ignited and lights me up, but how? And that's where the lighthouse came back into the picture for me. That's where I went back to that quote and said, you know what? Like, if I actually want to do this, if this is who I am and this is how I want to, the kind of life I want to build for myself, I got to figure out how to do it, because the stuff I need isn't just going to magically appear. And that is what the lighthouse has become. It's a symbol of what you need to do in your life and build in your life in order to feel lit up. And it's a symbol to remind us that there is a bit more to the story than those lovely sentiments, around finding your bliss. And it's here to just really remind us that we kind of have two choices in the world. We can trudge along waiting for things to get better, or we can just keep going through the motions and doing what we should do, or we can choose to build something on purpose, all the parts on purpose, a vehicle, a structure, a lighthouse that will help us to shine our light, to live a life that feels on purpose, to feel lit up from within, and to feel like we're leaving something good behind in the world. Then not only are we fulfilled and we have that sense of freedom that we're longing for in our life, or that sense of fulfillment, but also that we can put something better into the world. Maybe we could leave a legacy behind, touch another person and make a difference in some way. And I will say that how you do that, how you shine your light in the world, the lighthouse that you build, that vehicle that you build, is completely up to you. Some of us do it, like me, by building a business. Some of us do it in our work, in our careers. Some of us do it through volunteering, charity work. Some of us do it just through the pursuit of our interests and our hobbies and our passions. Some of us do it in our families and in our relationships, even just by taking care of ourselves. Your lighthouse can be anything that you want it to be. But the idea is it's the whole structure, the whole vehicle that you need to think about as you go on this journey to have the kind of life that you love. And so really, it's applicable to you in whatever situation you are in, if you choose to allow that symbol into your life. So let me talk a little bit more about the lighthouse as a symbol, because there's quite a lot that we can learn from the lighthouse as that symbol that reminds us that we've got really to do the work, that the things that we need in life don't magically appear, but we can actually build something from scratch that will allow us to have the kind of life that we long to have. So the first symbol that I want to talk about is the light itself, the idea that you need to ignite your light. Now, before I go any further, I will say that this isn't a linear thing. You can build your lighthouse in whatever order that you want. You can flip around to the different sections and come back to different sections. And in fact, as you build each part of your lighthouse, you will then discover other things you need to build as well. So you will jump around. It's not a linear thing. It's not a checklist. It's not, you know, if I do this, the next thing will happen. And sometimes it will, but sometimes you got to go back. You kind of got to go in circles and on a journey. And that's actually why I like to call it a revolution, because part of it is changing the way we think, but part of it is seeing that cyclical aspect of it, that revolution that you kind of do keep going around as you build each component. So we're going to start with the light, and I think that no matter what order you do things in, that's a very good place to start, and that's what I always encourage the people that I work with and that I coach and that I talk with, to get back to your light. So the idea of igniting your light is really igniting you. Your light is you. It's about being you. It's also a little bit about learning you, because you need to know who you are and what your strengths are and what your values are and what matters to you and who you want to be in the world. And so some of this is a bit of really getting back to you. And if you're feeling a bit lost and you're not really sure who you are anymore, and that certainly happens at different times in our life, that's a really good place to start. Get back to you. Spend some time with you, exploring what you love, what lights you up, what gets you fired up. Explore your passions and your hobbies and interests, maybe things that you sort of gave up and never came back to, or things you've been longing to do that you haven't tried. So some of this is about giving yourself a bit of permission to work on you. And you can do that, again, in any way that you want to. As I said, some of us will do it through the work that we do. Some of us will do it on a self-care journey. Some of us might be inspired to try different things. There might be something whispering in your ear right now, tapping you on your shoulder saying, you know, you really should try that thing that you've been longing to try, or you should learn that thing, or read that book, or, you know, go join that group. So a big part of this really is to just get back to you and think about what helps you feel ignited. Find your spark, what lights you up. And what is that fuel that keeps you going? How do you keep that mojo going? Because, of course, you know, as I said, I believe that light is the symbol of who you are in the world, but it needs some fuel to stay shining bright. So what fills up your tank? What fills you up so that you can give to others and go out and do the work that you're here to do? I think the big words that come to mind when I think about igniting your light are authenticity, being who you are in the world and just owning that. Clarity, you know, spending some time to think about what it is you want. What is your vision for your future? What is your dream that you have for yourself? I know women who haven't thought about that in a really long time, or maybe nobody's even asked them. What would an ideal day look like for you? 1 year from now or 5 years from now, if you could be doing anything you wanted to be, what would it be? So spending a bit of time dreaming, thinking about your vision for yourself, that really big vision, you know. Money was no object and fear didn't get in your way and you couldn't fail. What's that vision for yourself? And I also think another word that comes to mind when I think about igniting your light is, again, the idea of your purpose. What are you here to do you think? And again, we can kind of lose sight of our purpose. I think we're kind of born knowing it, and then we go on to do things because we feel like we should, or because of our circumstances, or, you know, just the way the world works. But what do you think that you might be here to do? And I think we each have an ultimate purpose. All of us here have an ultimate purpose, really, to grow, to be happy, and to love, and to give love and receive love. But beyond that, I think we each have our own soul's purpose, something that we feel called to do. So spending some time thinking about what that might be. Thinking about your why. You know, why is it that you do the things that you do and you love the things you love? What's that motivation that keeps you going? So that's kind of a bit of a summary of what that is, to ignite your light. And another thing I'll just add is that it helps if you have a lot of different light switches that will light you up. It doesn't have to be one thing. You can have lots of things that light you up, lots of interests and passions. They all come together. I think of it as like pieces of the puzzle. And if you imagine, a big jigsaw puzzle, you wouldn't just sit down and do the whole thing at once. That'd be pretty hard. But you might just walk by and find another little piece and stick it into place. So all of these little things about you are pieces of the puzzle that give you a bigger picture of who you are in the world and what you're here to do. And it all comes back to you. So the idea of igniting your light is to get back to you, to be you, to spend some time with you, or learn you once again, and keep you fueled up so that you've got some fuel to shine your light. And that's the second component of the lighthouse that I want to tell you about, and that is the beacon. To be a beacon. And if you think about the lighthouse, it's not just about, this beautiful building with a light inside. That light has a purpose. That light is a communication tool, a connection tool to the boats that are out in the harbor that need the lighthouse. And to me, the beacon reminds me that your light's not there. Your light isn't there just to be hidden inside of you. It's not just for you. Your light is here to be beamed out. It's here to shine. And to sometimes when we feel not very lit up inside, it's because we've dimmed our light down so far. It's there, but we forgot somewhere along the way that we're here to beam that light outwards. We're here to connect with others, to communicate with others, to be of service, to give love in some way or help others in some way. And I think that the beacon is a great reminder of that idea that you're beaming your light out there and that your light will affect others. And again, this might be in your home. It might be with your family. It might be you're the lighthouse in your home, and the way that you beam your light out affects all of those around you, your family. It could be in your work. It could be the way that you do your business by beaming your message out really strong so that those who love and care about the same things you do are connected with it as well. As authors, as speakers, as artists, bloggers, volunteers that help out at the school or help out at charities. There are lots of ways that your light will help you to connect with others and to communicate with others. Some of this is about visibility, and it's about standing tall and saying, this is who I am, and all of me, take me as I am, and not hiding who you are, but owning who you are, and to the point that you're really comfortable to share it with others. And some of it is about vulnerability, actually, because that's a hard thing to do, to be vulnerable and to come forward and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I care about, here's this thing that I made, or here's the stuff that I'm passionate about, and this is what, we're doing as a family, and we want to, talk about it. Or saying, this is something I wrote and put online. These are the photos that I shared on Instagram. All of that is beaming your light out in some way. The comments we make on social media, the people we connect with, the groups we join, the way that we, beam our light each day when we connect with others. So that's what I think that the beacon is really about connection. It's about communication. It's about generosity and loving others, being of service to others, helping others. And actually, it's about telling your story in any way that you want to, as I said, on social media, blogging, journaling, even if it's just for yourself. It's about telling your story and saying, once again, this is who I am in the world. This is me. And this is what I care about. And there's something really powerful even about sharing that story with one other person. I think we all have stories that we've kept inside for a long time. And when we look back at our journey, we can see things that have been sort of big moments for us, or turning points, or have changed the way we looked at the world, or helped us to know ourselves better. And those are all little stories that even if you share them with one other person, even if you take the time to get them out on a piece of paper and you haven't shared them yet, or if you share them, you know, through your photos or your art or your writing, or through your friendships, through your groups that you join, anything it is, there's a power in that. So the beacon reminds us to connect with others, to communicate, to tell our stories. And when we shine our light, I actually believe it creates ripples, because other people feel connected to that light, and they feel more confident to shine their light, and they then shine and affect others, and it creates ripples of light that can change the world. And that's a really powerful thing to think about, that you could just be one little lighthouse somewhere in the world, but by beaming your light out, that actually adds to that ripple effect, which is really cool. So that's what the beacon teaches us. The third component of the lighthouse that I wanted to tell you about is the actual tower, the structure of the lighthouse itself. The tower is basically what you're building to serve you so that you can shine your light in the world, so that you can live your purpose or do the work that you want to do, or be happy in whatever way that looks like for you. It's basically like the vehicle, you know, the vehicle that will allow you to build the kind of life that you want to build. It's all those components, how they come together. And your tower, your vehicle, and all of its components need to be of service to you. And it's absolutely unique to you. So how you build your life and the tower that you're building for your life is yours. It won't look like anyone else's. There are no two lighthouses that are exactly the same, and that's awesome. And there's room for lots of different kinds of lighthouses. So if you're, you know, in your friendship group and your friends are all, you know, working, and you are longing to be a stay-at-home mom and not ever go back to work, that's your tower. If you are on this journey of building a business and you might have some people in your life that don't really get that, that's okay, because it's your tower. It only has to serve you. It has to make sense to you. If you're choosing a route of, you know, blogging to, you know, share whatever it is you want to share, if you like hopping on Pinterest and doing all this cool stuff there, on Instagram, if you like to go out and make things or take photos, or, you know, hang out and volunteer all the time up at the school, or whatever it is, that's your tower, and you get to build it however you want to build it. And the thing about your tower is that it brings to mind, when you think about that tall lighthouse, you want it to be quite solid and strong and not so wobbly. And it brings to mind this idea of alignment, you know, standing straight and tall, and integrity, that every bit of the tower is adding to its strength. And so you need to look at the tower that you're building with your life right now, or your work right now, or your business, or whatever it is that's in your tower, and ask, do each of those pieces serve me? Is this how I want to spend my time? Does this feel aligned to my values and to my strengths? Or am I doing things because I feel like I should, or maybe because that's what I've always done? So a big part of this, I think, is permission. Permission to say, this is no longer serving me. I am decluttering it right out of my tower. Or permission to say, you know what I really want to do? I want to go do that class so I can learn something, or I want to, you know, join this group, or I want to say yes to this thing, or I want to say no to this other thing because it doesn't serve me and it's not where my time is best spent, and it drains me and it feels wobbly. So some of this is about boundaries, and saying no to things or saying yes to things because they fit in your lighthouse. They add to its integrity. They add to its alignment and its ability to stand tall and large, and to be of service to you. And some of it, I think, is about simplicity too, you know, and going through and saying, like I said, does this serve me or does this not? And throwing it out the door. And a big thing here is that it's your lighthouse, your way. So if your tower includes, you know, running every day, no matter what, then that's what you include it. That's what you include because it's yours. If your tower includes, you know, sitting with your feet in the sand and meditating, that's your tower. It's yours. Don't let anybody judge you for the things you include in your life and your tower. If you're into, you know, things that your friends think are kind of woo-woo and weird, don't talk to them about those things. Talk to people who get it so that you feel supported and you feel like there are people who get you, but doesn't mean you throw it out of the tower. It's yours. So you get to decide how you build it and what tools you use and what strategies you use. And when people say, oh, you know what you really got to do? You know, you really got to go to meditate down at the beach with your feet in the sand. And you're thinking, yeah, not my thing. I'd way rather run for an hour. That's your way of building up your life and yourself and taking care of you. Do that. So you can listen to, you know, all the strategies and all the advice in the world, and then you can pick out the stuff that fits you. And that, you know, just remember that it's your lighthouse. You're the keeper of the lighthouse. You're the CEO. You're in charge. You're the boss. You decide. No one else is going to come around and clean up your lighthouse tower for you. That's your job. So that's the tower. It's kind of the vehicle, the structure that allows us to feel, you know, that we're lit up, and everything in there serves us so that we can feel lit up, so that we can shine our light in the world. The fourth component of the lighthouse that I want to tell you about today is the foundation. The foundation really is about building you. So just as I said, the light was about being you, and the beacon is really about sharing you and beaming that light out to the world. The tower is meant to serve you. Your foundation is meant to build you up. It's that strong foundation, those strong building blocks that will support the rest of your life. And the thing about foundations is they don't magically appear when you start to build the rest of whatever it is you're building. So if you are saying, you know, this is the kind of life that I want to build, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I would love to create, the thing is, you know, your confidence might just not magically appear because you decided to shine your light. Your confidence, you know, to share your message or to talk to people or to help others in a certain way, that won't just appear because you've decided to do it. The foundation is really about building that stuff as well. Building your confidence, building your resilience, building your commitment, building up some positive self-talk, courage, mindfulness, abundance, you know, those things that will help you, strengthen everything you're doing so that you can live the life that you want. You have to build that stuff too. And that's something that people don't usually tell you. So, you know, you hop onto Pinterest or Instagram and you see these beautiful quotes about your mindset or your mindfulness or your worthiness or your confidence. And what people don't really talk that much about is the how. How does one build their confidence if it doesn't exist really strongly right now? How does one build courage? And so if these are things that you know you need in your foundation, you need to build them just as you would any other part of your life. Just as you would decide, you know, to go out running every day or meditate every day, you might also need to start looking around for some strategies to build some other stuff as well. And the cool thing about foundations is that we've all got some building blocks already. And I think you know this, if you're having a conversation with a friend and they're like, oh, you know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to, you know, go take a pottery course, or I've always wanted to write a book or whatever, but I just can't get started. And you might be thinking in your head, that's crazy. I have no problem getting started. You know, I start all sorts of stuff. If I love it, I'll go start it. And an awesome foundation block for you. You've got the ability to get started. You've got the ability to just go for it and to take that leap. But in your head, you might be thinking, I always hit a stage and I just start to freak out and think, who am I, to be doing this? Who am I to be writing a book? So I never finish because I start to feel like I'm not very worthy and I'm not the right person to be doing it. And so I give up. So that would then be a signal of a foundation block you might need to build. That finishing factor, or that sense of worthiness that will help you to keep going, or that sense of commitment to follow through even when things get hard. So you can actually notice your patterns. You can notice what you need in your foundation, and you can decide, wow, clearly I actually need to build that. It's not going to magically appear. And the amazing thing is when you are aware of it and you say, okay, I realize I need to build some, commitment. I need to build up my ability to stick with this and to know that I'm worthy enough to be doing it. Then as soon as you make that decision, you can start looking around for tools and people and information that will help you. It does exist. But the thing is, most of us just think that we don't have to work on that stuff until things get really hard. But you always have to work on these things. You have to always be building you. And it goes back to being you, back to igniting your light as well. As you build you, you will build that fuel that keeps you lit up. You will be building that tower. You will be building your ability to share your message or connect with others. So they are all connected. So that's what the foundation is about. And it really just brings to mind those ideas of strength, standing tall, integrity, alignment. All of those things that we want out of our tower need to have a strong foundation to support it. And as I said, that doesn't magically appear. So it's really about that idea of strength. The fifth component, and the last one that I'll talk about today, is the spiral staircase. And this, I think, might be my favorite one. I just love this symbol. It's such a great reminder that we are on a journey. The spiral staircase symbolizes your journey, and it symbolizes your ability to deal with the stuff that gets in your way that will leave you feeling stuck. And the spiral staircase is a beautiful symbol. It's a beautiful analogy because a lighthouse doesn't have a ladder that goes straight to the top. That would be incredibly difficult to climb. It'd be nearly impossible. It'd be wobbly and awful. Instead, it's got this spiral staircase. It takes you through the lighthouse, closer to your light, closer to who you are, closer to the top, one little step at a time. And for each little step you take, the next appears. So you can't actually see all the way. You have to take steps for the next to appear. And that's really cool because it gives you that idea that, if I just do one little thing today, even though I'm not exactly sure, even though I'm feeling a bit stuck, even though this is hard, I can take one little step. And that will make a big difference because maybe then the next step will appear and things will become more clear. I will feel closer to my light and closer to who I am. And it really reminds us, that idea of, finding your purpose and your purpose being, a destination. And we hear people say it's not a destination, it's the journey. And it really is because you're here to grow and you're here to learn and you're here to find out what makes you happy and to share love in this world and receive love in this world. And so you can only do those things if you keep taking little steps. I also love the idea of the spiral staircase because it reminds us that we're not actually going around in circles, that we're not, running around in circles meaninglessly. It's a spiral, and every step you take does make a difference. So the important thing here really is to remember that there will be stuff that comes up as you are building your lighthouse, as you're thinking about what lights you up and what ignites you, and you think about, connecting with others and how you can shine your light. There will absolutely be stuff that comes up for you that leaves you feeling really stuck. Fear, comparison, overwhelm, frustration, negative thinking, guilt, all sorts of issues, feeling obstacles and blocks, having a bad attitude, feeling dejected or like you might give up. I'm sure you could probably add some to the list. There are going to absolutely be crappy stuff like that that will come in your way and will leave you feeling stuck. And I believe that stuff comes up when you start building your lighthouse on purpose, because you are actually meant to deal with it. You are meant to figure it out, and then you're meant to grow. That's what you're meant to do. So if you stay in a really safe place where things are kind of small and simple and safe and comfy, and you're not pushing yourself and you're not stretching yourself and you're not thinking about how you might shine your light, and you're not building a lighthouse, because that's just, not very safe and it's kind of scary. So if you're staying in a safe, small place, yeah, you won't have to deal with fear. You won't have to deal with frustration or overwhelm, but you won't feel very lit up either. And I don't know that you can stay like that for very long in that place, in that really small place, because your soul inside is tapping you on the shoulder saying there's something more. And as soon as you start building that something more, that lighthouse, so to speak, that's when all the fear bubbles up. That's when all of the overwhelm bubbles up, and you start to think, who am I to be doing this? And you suck at this. Just go back to being safe and small. So it bubbles up because you're actually supposed to deal with it. And as you deal with each thing, each little step, the next will appear. So a big reminder for the spiral staircase is that your stuff is absolutely going to come up. And we each have different stuff. Again, just like the foundation, you might be talking to a friend and your friend might be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just, I've got this crazy, crazy fear that people aren't going to like me. And you might be thinking, I don't care if people don't like me. I'm not afraid of that at all. I am afraid, that I'm absolutely going to fail and look like a loser and have to, basically tell everybody that I sucked at it and it's going to be awful. And someone else might be thinking, I have no fear of failure. I don't care about that because I know failure is just a learning thing, but I'm afraid of. Do you see what I mean? We each have our own things. We each have our own triggers. We each have our own stuff to deal with. And that stuff will change. You'll deal with it and then something else will come. It's just part of the journey. So just know it's going to happen. Accept it's going to happen. You can even predict the stuff that's going to happen. And then when it happens, you can say, bingo, I knew that was coming, and I'm going to deal with it. And I'm going to keep taking little steps every day on my spiral staircase. So those are the 5 components of the lighthouse. And I'll tell you, this is the first time I'm talking about this with anybody. I'm actually working on another 6th component that I think is really powerful. But I have to do a bit more research, and I have to do some more work on some strategies and some ideas around it before I'll be ready to share it. But stay tuned, because there is more for us to learn from the lighthouse. And I would love to hear from you what symbols come up for you when you think about the lighthouse. Because every time I hear from somebody, I think, oh yes, that's so good. That's something we need to talk about, because whatever's coming up for you might help someone else as well. So basically what we have are 5 components that act as a bit of a framework no matter what we're working on, no matter what we're dealing with. So as I said, some people might be dealing with some stuff because they're building a business. Others might be just trying to, build a daily life that they love. Some people might be on this journey that's taking them, to new places in their work or their career. It's different for all of us. But no matter what you're working on right now, you can use the lighthouse as a framework to help you. And what I actually do is go through each of the 5 components and see what comes up, because that's where I can see why I'm feeling stuck and what I've got to do to get back to my light and to get back to building my lighthouse. So I'm going to just go through a little example that I've used recently, and then I'm going to start to answer some of the questions that I've received from our Lighthouse Revolution community. And I've actually got this little printable sheet if you want to grab it. I'm going to put it on the replay page, which I will email out to everybody who subscribed to this webinar. And I'll also share it in the Lighthouse Revolution community on Facebook. So you can find us there just by searching for hashtag Lighthouse Revolution on Facebook. It's just a little printable sheet, but you can use it to brainstorm. So what I do is on the very top, I'll write down the thing I'm working on that I'm feeling really stuck with. So recently for me, this, and I've talked about this a bit in my in the Lighthouse Revolution community, I decided to write a book. I actually decided quite a long time ago, and I was kind of excited about it at the beginning, and then it just totally fizzled out. And then I was away overseas, and I came back, and I was like, hey, I really got to get on this because I really wanted to do this year, and it's been months and months, and I haven't done a thing. I just feel absolutely stuck. I know this is something inside that I want to do. It's tapping on my shoulders. It's a goal. It's a dream. I want to write a book, and I want to get it, this message out there. So, I realized I was feeling stuck. So I put something in here about what I was feeling about this whole book thing. And then I thought, okay, so what would I coach somebody else to do? First, get back to you, get back to the light, ignite your light. So I just spent a bit of time just remembering, who I am and all of the stuff that I have to share, the stories that I want to share, the strengths that I have. And also I spent a bit of time actually just thinking about my vision for the book. So that's the one little thing I focused on. That's what helped me, was really just dreaming about what this book could be. Kind of, I pictured 2 years from now, and the book's written, it's been, the bestseller, and I'm talking about it at different places, and people are passing it to their friends, and I just let myself dream as though the future had happened. And that really got me excited again. It really got my mojo going again. It got me feeling lit up and more ready. And then I thought about the beacon, sending the message out. And I realized that for me, that was a big part of where I was feeling stuck. As I was picturing, sending the message out, beaming the message out, I was thinking, there's so many other books out there. And so now suddenly all those doubts and fears and stuff start to come up. And then what I did is just remembered that, for one, this is just my story to share. And even if nobody else ever reads the book, I'm still going to share my story. I'm going to write it. So that was a big relief, suddenly feeling this pressure that the book didn't actually have to reach 1 million people. I don't actually have to change the world. I just have to change the world for one person, for me. And for one other person, that would be pretty cool if it helped one other person, if I could change the world for one other person. So that made it feel a lot better when I thought about that beacon and sending that message out. It made me, I sort of flipped my thinking about it, because when I thought about it shining really brightly and, affecting a lot of people, all my fears started to come up. And so I spent a bit of time thinking about that, in the box with the spiral staircase, what's all this fear coming up? What are all these issues coming up? As soon as I think about beaming that message out really far, which, I would potentially be doing with writing a book, I could see right away some of the stuff that would get me stuck. So even just shining a light on that stuff is helpful. I thought about the tower, the structure, and I realized I had all these ideas in my head, these rules about what a book had to look like. And the book was going to be boring, and it was going to have to have all these different chapters, each with a theme and a heading. And I had to think about all the chapter titles, and I had to think about writing in capitals, which I never do. And I had to think about, how it was going to get published, and all of this stuff was freaking me out. All of these rules I had around the book. So I just got all of those out of my head, and then I thought, you know what? It's my book. I'm going to write it my way, and I'm writing it for me. And if somebody else reads it, that would be really cool, but I'm going to write it for me. So I'm going to write like I talk, and instead of having, chapters, it's just going to have sections, and it's going to have quotes and inspirational stuff in it and photos, because that's what I love. And I don't actually care about the rules about writing a book, and I'm going to just publish it myself, and then I don't have to worry about anything else. Even if I only have one copy of the book, that's it. And I could do, maybe do a Kickstarter campaign or something like that. And so suddenly I started to get more excited about my tower, because I decided to let go of all the rules, and I gave myself permission to do it in a way that would make sense to me. Now, my tower might change once the actual book is written and I actually do publish it. But for now, it's allowing me to get started because I'm allowing that structure to be what I want it to be. For the foundation, I had to think about what I would need to build up in myself in order to get this book written, because I could see that was, again, one of the reasons I was feeling stuck. So that sense for me, that sense of worthiness of, who am I to write a book? And again, even just giving myself permission to write it for me helped, just for me, helped a lot with that. Commitment to write it and get the job done. So a big way that I decided to conquer that was by joining the NaNoWriMo Challenge, which is the National Write a Novel Month for the month of November. So even though it's not a novel, I'm going to do that because it'll help me just write every day. And again, there was a bit of that, I would love to be able to go off and write my book in a cabin somewhere all by myself, but that's not going to happen. And I kept thinking, well, maybe wait till you're done all these other jobs and then you can write the book. And then I thought, again, back to that tower, I need to just do it my way, write a few words each day, give myself a half an hour each day or something like that. And I don't have to wait for all that other stuff to be done. I could do this at the same time. So I could do this and that, and giving myself permission. So I kind of went back again. You can see how I kind of jumping around, but that's what happens when you start to, understand all these different components. You jump around and one bit will help you do another bit. And then back to that spiral staircase, as I mentioned, when I thought about really beaming my message out there and sharing it in a big way by writing a book, I kind of freaked out and I kind of did my own head in with fear and stuff. And so what I had to do is just say, you know what, every time that fear comes up, I'm just going to have to say, I get it, fear. You're trying to keep me small and safe, but I need to tell this story. I need to share this story. And so I'm going to do it anyways. Thank you, though, for trying to keep me safe. And I also know that the fear is a sign that I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And that's actually a good thing. And I'm pushing myself into the space that really lights me up. And that's why the fear comes up. So it's actually a good sign. And what actually happened once I started to recognize the things that were making me feel stuck is I had quite a few things in about a 1 or 2 week span come my way that shifted things. I listened to a great interview with Liz Gilbert, which really helped me reframe what I was thinking about this book and let go a lot of the fear and a lot of those feelings of who am I to be doing this, and so many other people have books out and blah, 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 all that stuff in your head. So just that one interview coming in my newsfeed changed things for me drastically. I read another book that instead of feeling like, oh my God, they've already written the book and maybe I shouldn't write a book because it already exists and blah, blah, blah. I thought, oh my gosh, I already know my stuff. I know all this stuff. I'm ready. So that was a really cool thing. And then I also had that shift with the new component of the lighthouse that I want to talk about. It kind of filled in a bunch of missing stuff that I was worried about, and it really shifted my perception on what the book was about and who might be reading it and who it might help. So those little messages came into my vision just as soon as I recognized what was holding me back. A whole bunch of little things to help me came my way. So sometimes just shining a light on what has you feeling stuck can make a big difference. Being aware of it, recognizing it, and being like, okay, I clearly have this problem because I keep comparing myself to other people. I'm not feeling worthy. There's already so many books out there. Who am I to blah, blah, blah. I need help. I need some strategies to deal with this. And as soon as I put it out there, I had some strategies literally in my newsfeed when I opened up Facebook the next day. So that's a little bit about how I use the 5 components to do something like writing a book. And you can do that for any goal. You can be like, I really always wanted to learn this thing or try this thing, or I want to, change this aspect of my life. Whatever goal, you can use the 5 components of the lighthouse to support you so that you can build something that will actually help you to achieve that goal. Now, I really want to answer some of the questions that I've received from the Lighthouse Revolution community. Let me just find my paper here. So one of the questions I received is, just open these up again. Okay, so this is an interesting one because it's come up twice. So let's talk about how the lighthouse might help a bit with your partner, your relationship, your connection with other people. So one person has said that they're working on making improvements in their home and their life and communicating well with their partner. Another question I got was how somebody had been working on stuff and doing work they love, and they were happy building their business and working on themselves, building their confidence and being more visible, but finding that some friends don't really get it, starting to feel a bit lonely, and has a husband who's really supportive, but not feeling like super connected, even though he's supportive. It doesn't completely, get this journey that she's on, and wondering how the lighthouse could help her build that relationship. So I think that that automatically is something that happens when we are doing work on ourselves. And I will say that the work that you do on your business or your career or whatever journey that you're on, when you work on that stuff, you are also working on yourself. And when you work on yourself, you are also working on all that stuff. And it's a very transformational journey. This idea of building a lighthouse on purpose so that you can live a life that you love is transformational. And when that happens, sometimes other people do get triggered by it because they got their stuff and they're seeing what you're doing, and for some reason that's triggering them. So a lot of the time when people don't get it or get you or even criticize you or don't care about what you're doing, that can be hard and it hurts, but that's their stuff. And you need to just keep doing the work on your stuff. One of that symbol of that beacon, I think, reminds us that we need to focus on our boats, the boats out there who actually are the ones we want to connect with. People going through the same stuff as us, or people who care about the same things as us, or our core family that really matters to us, that really, are those relationships we really need to concentrate on. It doesn't mean you kick everyone else out of your life. It just might mean you might not talk about the lighthouse with them. And surround yourself with some other people who do care about the same stuff you do. And you can find like-minded people, for instance, in our Lighthouse Revolution community. When it comes to something like building your relationship with your partner, I think the actual 5 components of the lighthouse can really be helpful. So you could spend, I've lost my paper again, you could spend a little bit of time, thinking about what is your dream for your relationship with your partner. What kind of vision do you have of that? And who are you? What do you bring to that relationship? And what does that other person bring to it? Think about, that ultimate purpose of being happy and giving love and growing. And what does that vision look like? And if you can get clear on that, what it is you want, ideally, then that can help you to know possibly what sorts of things you might need to communicate a bit better. And it can also help you to know what you need to work on in yourself, building your foundation. Because oftentimes the things that we are longing for in a relationship, or that we're frustrated that we're not getting in a relationship with others, any kind of relationship, those are the signs of the things that you need to actually give yourself. So that can give you a clue of what you need to build in yourself so that you can then shine your light, and then other people are affected by that light that you shine, including your partner or your friends. And that's really your job as a lighthouse, is just to shine your light, shine it in whatever way you love to do. It doesn't mean you have to talk about all that stuff that you care about. It doesn't mean you have to go on about, your meditation in the sand or the running that you do each day. You just go do that stuff. And you talk about it with people who care about the same things as you do. And for everyone else, they're just going to be affected by the light that you shine. And of course, as you're building your relationship, you can predict what kinds of things trigger you and what kinds of things are going to leave you feeling stuck and wanting to give up, because you know yourself. You know that, when he says this, you're going to do this, or when that friend does this, or your mom says that, you're going to react in those ways. And you can start looking for little strategies that will help you to deal with the stuff that you know is going to happen. And you can do that in any way you want. I mean, some people choose to get counseling and help, outside help. You can read books, you can do journaling, you can do things like meditation and emotional freedom technique or tapping, or getting out and having some time and then coming back, like whatever things work for you, whatever tools in your tool belt that will help you to build that relationship. That's part of that, being on that spiral staircase and knowing that that stuff doesn't magically get fixed. It's your job to do the work, to take a step. How you choose to take the step is up to you. There are no rules there. So if you've got someone saying, oh, you totally need to go and see a life coach, you might not have to. You might not want to. You might want to do something instead. You just need to find your tools to deal with that. And then, of course, that tower, that structure, that vehicle that will allow you to have a life with healthy relationships that you love. Again, you have to think about what's in your tower. What are you hanging on to? What do you need to declutter? What's no longer serving you? And some of that might be physical stuff, maybe even friendships that you don't really need in your life that much anymore. Some of it might be emotional stuff that you need to declutter and just let go of. It might be giving yourself permission in some ways. If we're talking about relationships, it might be, scheduling in time to have a date night or to go spend time with that person, and making sure that you have time for yourself as well to do that self work. So you can see how you can just go through each of the components of the lighthouse and think about your relationship is an aspect of that life that you're building. And so for each of the components, how could building a lighthouse help you build that relationship? All right, I hope that helps a little bit. And again, pop over to the Lighthouse Revolution community. We can keep the discussion going. Another question I got is about boundaries. I'm happy to help people, but some people cross my boundaries and seem to want all of me or all of my stuff for free, or are constantly asking of me for things. And boundaries, I believe, is a big part of that tower that you're building, that structure, learning what to say yes to and learning what to say no to. But in order to know that stuff, you have to get back to you. You have to get back to your light. You have to grab the sheet and think about, who are you? What lights you up? What is your zone of genius? And that's a phrase from the book, The Big Leap, from Gay Hendricks. And if you've never read that book, I highly recommend it, because it really helps you to know about that tower that you want to build. What are you in your zone of genius? Are you staying in a zone of competence or a zone of excellence, or even a zone of incompetence, where you're doing stuff that you're not even that good at, but you seem to still be saying yes to it? And that book will also help you to understand some of that fear that comes up and why we kind of self-sabotage ourselves as we try to get into our zone of excellence. But a big thing, with your boundaries is when you know you and what you love and what lights you up and what absolutely drains you and sucks you dry, then you can get back to that tower and say, this isn't serving me. This isn't what I want to be doing. I'm not even good at this, or I absolutely hate this. And I can say no. So in order to build those boundaries, in order to know what you're saying yes or no to, and to standing tall and strong in that and feeling aligned, you have to know yourself first. And then you also probably have to build up that foundation as well, because you need to build up that strength and that confidence to be able to stand your ground and say yes or no to things. And one thing that I find helps, and this is a little business trick, but I think you could actually do it in any aspect of your life, is if you know that people are asking you of stuff, like write down what you're constantly getting asked for, and write down what you'll say yes to, and write down what you'll say no to. If it's people, if you're, a stay-at-home mom and you're constantly getting asked to help out at the school all the time and you can't get anything else done, put it in your schedule. I help on these days and no other time. If people are asking you to donate time and money or give away stuff for free, you're getting asked to do stuff, for your business or your work, put it down on a piece of paper like it's a contract and actually work it out. This is what I'll say yes to. This is what I'll say no to. This is my line in the sand. This is my boundary. And when you write it out and then people ask you for stuff, you can actually refer back to it and say, well, actually, no, I don't do things on those days, or no, I don't help out in that way. I'd be happy to help with this one thing. And, it's actually quite freeing to say, you know what, that's not really my zone of genius, and I'm going to say no to it. When you say no to something, it gives you time, energy, space to say yes to something else. Yes to something that really does light you up. So it's part of your job to build that tower, to build that boundary of what you will say yes and no to, and to simplify all the stuff that's not serving you. So a big part of building a lighthouse, it can really help with that stuff around creating boundaries and making decisions as well, what you'll say yes and no to. Another question. Recently, I was really fired up at a conference and excited to get out there and get going on all these ideas, but I can slowly feeling myself slipping into a state of busyness, being just too busy to move forward with all that stuff. I'm too busy juggling and feeling like I can't, or maybe that I won't actually move forward. So that's pretty normal. And what I would actually suggest is that feeling of busyness, too busy to move forward to whatever, I would look a bit deeper and say, what are the fears and worries and all the stuff that's coming up within your spiral staircase and your journey that's kind of making you freak out a bit? Because when you're aware of those things and you accept that it's actually something you're meant to deal with, that takes some of the power away from it. You can see it for what it is. And you can be like, when that word, oh, you're too busy to do that, never going to happen. When that comes up in your head, you can call it like it is and be like, stop, go sit in the corner. Stop that. It's not helpful to me. I'm going to move forward anyway. And you can also see how you might need to build your foundation up a bit, or build that tower, those boundaries, and say, I'm saying yes to this and no to that because it doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve this light that I'm here to shine. And another big thing that you can always do, and the first thing I always suggest, is get back to your light. Get back to the light. What, that feeling that you had at the conference, what was making you feel so lit up and excited? I sometimes go back to my light every single day. This is what I do. I grab these pieces of paper and my colored pens, and as soon as I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm freaking out, or I don't have the mojo to get this done, I just realize that all that other stuff is getting in my head and I need to get back to my light. And I'll sit down with my colored pens. Why am I doing this? What is it I really want to do? What lights me up? What excites me? Who am I in the world? And get that clarity again, and then build everything else from that. Build your lighthouse again from that, and keep it simple. Whatever it was that you were excited about the conference, what's one thing you could do today? Because you can actually do that stuff and all the other stuff you have to get done as well. So that's one thing about building your lighthouse, is that it kind of gives you that frame to come back to, that frame of reference to come back to when you catch yourself in that state. You can say, whoa, that was the old me, the old way of building a life and work and a business or whatever else that you're building, is in the circle of being excited, feeling overwhelmed, busy, blah, blah, blah. And that's the old way. But I've changed my thinking about it, and I'm not building that anymore. Instead, I'm building this. I'm building a lighthouse, a structure that will actually help me to stay ignited and to shine my light. And when the stuff that comes up that feels kind of crappy, and you recognize it for what it is, you just meant to deal with it and to keep on going. So that, I hope, helps you to recognize that a little bit more. Okay, so I got another question from somebody with a business working on marketing and images, brand story, etc. The sales and requests about the product are still not coming in. And so I'm feeling at a loss. And I know that feeling well, that feeling of dejection, and I'm doing all this work and the thing that I wanted isn't coming in. And I know that it's hard, especially when you feel like, you've got that pressure that you need to earn money and make sales. What you might need to do is take a little bit of pressure off you in some way. You might need to do something that's not necessarily part of what lights you up to take the pressure off if there's a financial pressure. And that's fine. That could be part of your tower. If you know that you need to do some side gigs, selling something that you don't really love doing that much, but you're going to do it anyways because you can make some money doing it, or I know lots of people who are building a business who also have a job at the same time to bring in some money. That there's nothing wrong with that. You're not being less true to who you are and to that passion that lights you up and that thing that you long to create in the world by spending some time working on other stuff as well. Because if that stuff is bringing in money or taking off some of the pressure, it's actually going to help you build the other stuff as well. So you might need to go back to your tower and say, maybe I've put too much pressure on this one thing and I'm really locked in this outcome that this has to work and it has to bring this much money right away, when it might take a little bit more time. Give yourself permission for it to take more time. Again, that's your tower. Who says, there's no such thing as an overnight success, but even if you know somebody who is, who says that's the only way? And the other thing that I would suggest is that one of the things about building a lighthouse is you're saying, this is what I want to build. This is it. This is what's going to let me shine my light in this world. This is what's going to light me up. This is what's going to allow me to grow and evolve and help others and feel happy. And so when we believe in that, when we believe in that lighthouse that we're building, what's the alternative? So if you're feeling dejected and you're not making the sales or things haven't clicked yet, what's the alternative? Are you going to just not do that anymore and give it up and go do something else entirely? And how does that feel? Because I know for me, the alternative is just not an option. And so even times where I'm disappointed because something wasn't a success or I haven't earned as much money as I wanted to make, I realize that the alternative is not an option for me. Giving up, tearing that lighthouse down and not doing that anymore is not an option. That's what I'm building. And so I'll do whatever it takes to keep building it, even if it means, making money in another way or giving something a little bit more time, or even throwing something completely out of the tower because it's not serving me, even if it's sad and disappointing, and say, maybe this wasn't the right thing. Or maybe this is the thing that will take me on a step to the next thing. So what I would suggest in that case is to, again, go back to this, and you've got that product, that thing that you're making, and you've thought about how you're communicating it with telling stories and your brand and your marketing. But you might need to still do some other stuff. You might need to get back to your light and really get clear on what it is that you're doing and why, that vision that you have, and be really clear that this product that you're selling is the thing that needs to be part of your tower. But then also recognize that just doing those bits aren't enough. Having your light ignited and being really excited to share your message and have that product that you sell, which is your tower, though that's only 3 components. There's a couple of other things you actually need to do as well. So if you're feeling like, really wobbly with some foundation stuff, you've got to build that stuff as well. Just as you build a marketing plan, just as you build your brand and get your message out there, you need to be building your absolute belief in this, your absolute confidence in this, your sense of worthiness, and all the stuff that gets up in your way, all the stuff that gets you feeling stuck, that crap you have to deal with, like that feeling, really dejected about things, that stuff that you're meant to deal with as well. So by dealing it head on and saying, yes, I feel dejected, but I'm going to keep doing it anyways because I'm committed to this and this is what I'm, here to do, and go back and keep tweaking and keep working at it, that in itself is going to open up and shift things for you. And one other thing that I'll mention is that, as I mentioned, it's not really just enough to know this is what I want to do and I'm going to beam my message out to the world, and I'm going to sell this thing. We can have the brightest light and the biggest amount of fuel and we can be totally ready to beam our message out there. But if our windows are all fogged up because we aren't believing in ourselves, or we feel like there's, this lack of money coming in, a lack of people, and it's all so hard, and oh my God, and a foggy windows covered in gunk, it's not going to work. That message that you're sending out is cloudy, and people aren't going to get the message that you're trying to send. They'll be like, oh, well, she's talking about this thing that's really cool, but she doesn't really seem to believe in herself very much. She doesn't seem to believe in it, or, I can see that there's a lack of confidence there. I just don't get it, or whatever it is. And that's fine. That's just part of the journey. So your job is to get the big scrub brush and do some cleaning of your light constantly, of those windows, constantly going back and building each component of the lighthouse, and keep working at it and keep going. And I hope the framework of those 5 things will help you to look at your product and what you're selling, and look at the stories, and keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Another thing about when you beam your message out is sometimes we beam it out in a way that's really safe, just a little bit. And so we actually have to work pretty hard to get our message out even further out into the sea where all the boats are, and that is hard because that then triggers fear, and it then requires you to build some confidence and maybe adjust some things in the tower. So it's constantly a thing that you need to keep doing, and I hope that the lighthouse will help you to do that. There was another question that came in that I just want to check because it was another good one. So somebody who's just feeling pretty stuck in general, miserable in work position, hasn't found a better fit, dealing with all sorts of stuff, having no energy, don't even really want to exercise, even though I'm gaining weight. There's financial worries, taking care of parents, long distance, gosh, I can totally relate to that. It's life, isn't it? We get all this, pressure, and they come in all sorts of ways: family, finances, relationships, work, health, and it just kind of spirals, doesn't it? And it really feels overwhelming to even just get started. And I will say that I think that the lighthouse can definitely help, but it might feel a bit like it's so big. Where do I even begin? As I mentioned before, I would begin by going back to you. And that might feel really hard, especially I know a lot of people in with that sort of thing that's described there also have, depression or anxiety and stuff on top of that, which can make it really hard to get out of bed, hard to get off the couch to do even just one thing. And what I would say, first of all, is that you have to take care of you first. You have to go back to you first. And even if you could just find one little thing to light you up, knowing that your purpose really each day is to do something to be happy, if you could just do one little thing that might shift something to make you feel happier, I think that would just be that, even if it's just going outside, giving yourself 5 minutes to put your feet in the grass and have, a glass of wine or a cup of tea or whatever it is, but something that's for you. Because you're doing so much and giving so much to others, and you're not filling up your tank, and you're not, you said yourself, you're worried about health and weight gain. You need to feel full, fueled up. And I just think one tiny little thing that you could give yourself permission to do might be enough to start a bit of a shift, a bit of a crack, to let that light shine, to let that light be ignited. And that there's no rules. That's whatever you want it to be. Going out for a walk, doing something that's for yourself in some way, spending time doing a hobby, reading a book that might cause a shift. Just one thing, one tiny little thing that's a little bit different than what you're doing every day, and allowing yourself just that little bit of time, even if you have to sneak it in some way, leaving for work 5 minutes earlier so you can have 5 minutes just to sit in your car and breathe. Whatever it is, you'll know. I hope you'll have one little whisper in your head of something you could do. Whatever it is, one thing to just allow yourself just to light up a little bit for you. And then when you start to feel a little bit more lit up, then I think you could probably deal with some of that other stuff in other ways. You could go through each one thing about helping others and your relationships and caring for others, one thing about your health, one thing about your work, and just go through the components of the lighthouse for each one thing, So for instance, with work, you might say, what is it, sometimes work is it we're doing work that we hate and it's not really what we want to do, but somewhere in there might be one little nugget of gold that allows you to do stuff that's calling to you on the inside. I know I used to do a lot of business coaching around marketing and branding and really specific strategies, like how to start an Instagram account or how to do Pinterest or how to do Facebook. And that stuff was okay. And I loved it and I was good at it because I'm a very good teacher. But what I realized looking back, what I loved the most was getting deeper and talking with the women about the stuff they were really feeling stuck with. And once I realized that that was the stuff I love to do, everything else kind of made a bit more sense. So even now, if I do work that's not really my zone of genius, it doesn't light me up, I can find those little nuggets of gold in them that I can really focus on. If I do this, yes, it's going to totally drain me dry, but somewhere in there's a little thread of gold that's hinting towards your purpose and your calling and the stuff that lights you up. And so you can even just kind of find that little thread and then think about the other components of the lighthouse. And it might be reframing them a little bit, flipping your thinking about them. But those 5 components, you could go through each, create one little tiny goal for different aspects of your life and build a little lighthouse for each of them, or include them in your big lighthouse. But I would definitely say that before you can really conquer any of the other stuff, you have to start first by taking one little step today to do something to ignite your light, even just a little flicker. And it even could be who you're spending time with and who you're talking with, or, sharing your story or something. You have to just pick one thing. And I will just say that I don't think you're alone. I think there's lots of people that feel that way, that complete, where do I even start? Because everything is just too freaking hard. And it's so big that you can't even take one step. And I definitely can relate to that feeling. And I would love for you to come over to the Lighthouse Revolution community. And these are all anonymous, so you don't have to share your specific story, but you can say, hey, I'm one of those people who just feels like it's all too hard and I don't even know where to begin. And then we can support you just to do one little thing, take one little step that will start to just shift things a bit and crack things open. And we'll keep sharing little strategies over there as well that might help each day. But the other thing I'll add to, as I said, I think we're on this journey, this spiral journey, and we're all on it. And in the lighthouse, I talk about it being an upward spiral that feels empowering, and it feels like you're taking action and you're taking little steps towards your light. But you could also be on a downward spiral. You could be on a downward spiral towards something that feels really dark and not fulfilling, and that doesn't light you up at all. And with your soul inside tapping you on the shoulder saying, this is not what we're here to do, but you're stuck on this downward spiral. And so I would say for anybody who's recognizing that right now, that's the first step. Just saying, whoa, this is not the kind of journey I actually want to be on. This is not who I want to be or the life I want to build. And then deciding today that I'm no longer going to stay in that stuck place, or I'm no longer going to stay in this downward journey. I'm going to do one little thing that's an upward thing today. Even something as simple as changing the way you're thinking about things, changing your thoughts a little bit, elevating your thoughts, doing one little thing that lights you up, fills up your tank a little bit. Little steps. It's that spiral staircase has little tiny steps. So don't focus on that big, massive change you need to shift in your life. Pick one little thing. And if you're listening and that feels a bit like you, that it's also big, and where do I even begin? I would love it for you to come over and share one little thing you're going to do today, one little step, and know that we're there to support you and cheer you on. Let me just check my questions one more time. Oh, yes, one more question. The dreaded, who do you think you are? Which will come up in this situation. It's somebody who's shifting their business, but it will come up for everything. It'll come up if you decide that you want to take your health and, build a lighthouse and decide today that your vehicle, your structure needs to be healthy so that you can go out into the world and do the work that you're here to do, and you can take care of you, and you can build your relationships and everything else. If it's about, deciding to say no to some things and yes to other things, if it's saying, I'm going to make this little shift in our relationships in our family because I want us to, feel more lit up as a family and focus on what really matters to us, any of those things, when you start building a lighthouse, that's going to come up. Who do you think you are? Who does she think she is? Going out and running every day. Who does she think she is saying no to, volunteering at the school because she's, got to stay in her zone of genius, whatever. Who does she think she is blogging and sharing her story? Who does she think she is, posting that kind of stuff on Instagram? She's not, a guru. She's not a teacher. She's not a blah, 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 whatever. That stuff comes up, and it's just something that you've got to deal with. It's part of your journey. And a big thing that I like to do is hold up a mirror, and anybody who's saying those who does she think she is messages, bounce that stuff back on them, because that's their stuff coming up that you've triggered in them. But recognize that you're looking at yourself in that mirror as well. And if that kind of stuff's coming up for you and you're saying to yourself, who am I to do this? Where do I have to turn? I'm backwards. Who am I not to do this? Who are you not to shine your light in the world? That's what you're here to do. That's what you're born here to do. Who are you not to? Who are you to be a small person stuck in a safe, comfy place that doesn't light them up? What kind of life is that for you? Who are you not to do this? and that's your answer every time that comes up. Who do you think you are? You are as equal to everybody else who's doing work that lights them up, living a life that lights them up. You are the exact same. We're all the same. None of us is more special than anybody else. Some of us are choosing to do this, build a lighthouse, and we're working hard to do that stuff. Nobody's more special than anybody else. We're all equal. We all have a light to shine, and who are you not to shine it? So part of your journey is to deal with that when it comes up and to flip it and say, who am I not to? And when you hear that, who does she think she is? Just recognize that's not on you. That's their stuff. Anything that's reflecting back at you that you're still like, oh, it's just getting to me. It's driving me crazy. I can't let it go. That's something for you to deal with. It's just part of your journey. So that's what I would say. And I think that dreaded who do you think you are is going to come up. And just recognize that we each have a little voice in our head that's helping to keep us safe and small and out of danger. And I kind of think of that as like this little crazy pet dragon, ready to breathe fire on anything that's dangerous. And it's just a little naughty pet. And you're the boss. You're the lighthouse keeper. You go send that naughty pet to the corner and say, no, stop tugging on the leash. This is going to be okay. Who am I not to do this? Who am I not to do this? And go send that little voice to the corner and say, thank you for trying to keep me safe, but I'm going to do this anyways because I recognize that this is a step I need to take in my journey because it's going to help me get to the next step. It's going to elevate me out of this. And own it, because you are the keeper of the lighthouse. It's your lighthouse. You decide. You don't let other people decide for you anymore. You're the boss. You're the lighthouse keeper. All right, everyone, that went a little bit longer than what I'd originally planned, but I really wanted to get to all of those situations and those comments. And if there are any that I didn't deal with, because I've maybe didn't get the message in time, I will pop over to the Lighthouse community and I will keep, answering questions and addressing situations, and we can keep having this conversation. I'm also going to share that little printable so that if you want to print it out and do some work on building your lighthouse, you can. Another wonderful resource that I just want to mention is that we've got a brand new Lighthouse Oracle, which is free. And in the Lighthouse Oracle booklet, you will see those 5 components of the lighthouse listed and a bit of information for each. So even that one page can be a bit of a reminder of what we talked about today. But you will also find 5 sheets of cards, which you can print out and you can cut out and use them as a deck, an Oracle deck where you can pull the cards. Even if you just want to read the cards and jot down some messages to yourself, it's useful that way. In the Lighthouse Oracle booklet, I've got some ideas for how you can use it. But each of these pages, each of these sort of stack of cards represents one of the components. So there's 5, and they can help you as well. So you can just look at them and say, I can see that one of the things I need to do is this. And you just put it, cut it out and stick it beside your work desk and say, or stick it on your mirror in your bathroom or on your fridge at home, and just remember, that's what I'm here to work on. I actually need to build each component. It doesn't magically appear. So the Lighthouse Oracle, I hope, will be a nice little tool actually in your tool belt that you can just get some reminders of the work that you need to do. If you're feeling stuck, you can pull a card and see if it'll help you. You can read the whole thing and notice what stands out to you right now. That can be a clue. There's lots of different ways you can use those cards. So that Lighthouse Oracle is free to anybody who's subscribed to the Lighthouse Revolution. But what I'll do is I'll share the link to that again. If you haven't already subscribed and received the email with the link to grab that Lighthouse Oracle, I'll make sure to send it out to everybody who's subscribed to this webinar, and I'll also share it in the community. And one last thing I have for anybody here who is building a business as part of their journey, and I believe that those of us who do choose to build a business, that's how we are choosing to build our lighthouse, and that's how we are choosing to shine our light in the world, is through our business. And I have a specific coaching program that's for women in business who realize that they do actually need to do more than just the sort of strategies that everybody tells you, the marketing and the branding and communication strategy. And I've made my product and voila, it's for sale and it's going to take off like gangbusters. Most of us realize there's more to the story. Many of us feel like there's something missing, and there's stuff that we're clearly not doing because things aren't working the way that we thought they would. And some of us even feel like there's got to be more heart and soul to this, because this is something that we're passionate about. And then we get into this business building stuff in it, and it feels a bit overwhelming, and it starts to feel, I don't know, a bit soul destroying at times. So for anybody that wants a little bit more of a soulful and heart-centered approach, for anybody that wants more strategies, like specific actual strategies to help them build each component of the lighthouse, and for anybody that wants some support to build a lighthouse, to build a business in a lighthouse way that includes all of the components and actually gives you tools to deal with all the stuff that does get in your way and gets you stuck, I would like to invite you to that program. It's called Illuminate. We're starting up again. It's a lifetime membership, but we go through the actual components of the lighthouse with an intent to build our business in that way. We go through them a couple of times a year. So we're going to start that up again starting at the very beginning of November. And there's a great bonus to help you do some business planning for 2016 as well. And I'd love to invite you to join the Illuminate coaching program. We've got a beautiful little community that's super supportive, and we do lots of extra a library full of extra learning that we do, as well as a lot of strategies. There's, I think now, about 60 little strategies that will help you build all of those components of your lighthouse and more. So you get a lot of help from me as well, specifically with your business. So if that sounds good to anybody, if you're building a business and you realize that you're at a place where you've done the jobs and you've got the business started, but things still aren't clicking or feeling like you want them to feel, or you need some more help and support, I would love to invite you to come around to Illuminate. And for everybody else, of course, you can build your lighthouse in many ways, not just with a business, and that's what the Lighthouse community, Lighthouse Revolution community is all about. And that book that I mentioned that I'm writing now, or I'll start on November 1st, is all about that. So thank you so much for joining us in the Lighthouse Revolution community. And we are going to keep chatting about these 5 components of the lighthouse. We're going to keep talking about the work we need to do to actually build something that will allow us to live a life that lights us up and to feel ignited and to shine our light in a way that feels authentic to us, and to take little steps each day to do the work, because that's really what we got to do. The light doesn't just magically appear. So I hope that the lighthouse is becoming a symbol that will inspire you as well. And I would love to hear from you. Pop over to the community and do let us know if you have another question or you want to share a situation, get a bit of insight or some lessons from the lighthouse. We'll keep sharing the oracle cards as well. They're very insightful, and I'll keep sharing those on Instagram and in the Lighthouse Revolution community on Facebook. And I'd love to hear your input on those as well and your take on things. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you about the Lighthouse and to hear your comments. And I really look forward to keeping in touch online. Do say hi. We'll see you over in the community. Be sure to grab all the freebies, and thanks so much for coming out. Bye.